Hey guys, got another video today. This one's gonna be over Giant. You'll see some of the same replays as a couple other videos, I believe, because I had a hard time finding people who would share Giant replays, which is kind of interesting because Giant's a popular card, and I just couldn't find people. So we'll be seeing Lord Fauci's replay. You saw it in the balloon episode. Balloon is a good thing to combo with a giant because the balloon does a lot of the damage, but the giant does the tanking for it. Um, I wouldn't necessarily suggest that everyone use this because a balloon's an epic, and every just about every video I uh bring up the rarity of each card because that really depends, and it can hurt you or help you a lot on ladder because obviously commons are a lot easier to upgrade, rares are fairly easy, epics are hard, and then legendaries are very hard to upgrade. And on ladder you've got to take that into account because if you get high enough, eventually you're going to be facing some guys whose cards are over leveled. For instance, I'm sure a lot of you play over leveled Royal Giants that are level 13, and everyone gets mad about that, but I personally use a Royal Giant, and I don't think it's anything to get mad about because you have the option to upgrade a common just like everyone else does. So, um, I personally try to put as many commons and rares in my decks as possible. More commons because they're easier to upgrade. Um, and so I'll always bring that up, the rarity of each card. And so Balloon is an epic, and so it'll be harder, but it's also a very powerful card. A lot of the epics and legendaries are really powerful, and it kind of stinks that they're harder to get. Like Poison, I wish I could put in my decks, but I can't upgrade it because it's so hard to upgrade because it's an epic. And then there's Lightning. I like Lightning a lot. And then Electro Whiz, Graveyard. Just the cards that are so hard to upgrade, and you can't put in decks because they're so hard to get the cards, and it costs a lot of gold to upgrade them too. So um, always focus on, or always remember your rarities when building a ladder deck. It doesn't matter as much on a challenge in a challenge deck because cards are capped, and once you get them to that cap, you're good. So tournaments are quite a bit different because you have a lot of different cards at your disposal, and you can use just about whatever type of deck you want as long as you've unlocked the card and got it to the tournament cap. So Giant is a really good tank. It's got, I think, the second most HP in the whole game, behind the Golem, of course, and it might be the most valuable out of all the tanks because of what it does. It's not going to pop into the pups, obviously. It's not going to turn into the Golemites or do death damage, but it's 5 elixir, which is 2 less than the Lava Hound, 3 less than the Golem, and you can upgrade it fairly easily because it's a rare, and so it might be, in a lot of people's opinions, it's probably the best tank in the game, and that's of course changed with the meta. It's been the best sometimes, not the best other times, but it's always been at least a decent tank, so feel free to use it if you want to. So this next replay is me, if you can't tell. I actually used a giant Sparky Zap Bait deck that was pretty fun. Sparky, if y'all didn't know, is one of the hardest cards to actually get to work in the game. It's one of the hardest cards to get to work because there's so many counters. The Electro Whiz pretty much directly counters it. If there's almost no way to protect your Sparky from an Electro Whiz, so if your opponent's got an Electro Whiz, I mean, You got to put Goblin Gang down to kind of protect your Sparky, but I mean they can log that, so I don't. Uh, it's going to be kind of hard to use, but you're hoping that you're with the elixir pump, you'll eventually build up a big enough lead to where you can just stack some troops to where the Electrowiz will get killed pretty much right when it gets set down. What I would suggest that you use is probably a giant poison. Poison and lightning are probably the two best big spells to use, and if you use poison, you need to use Zap for Infernos, probably. If you use lightning, you need to use either arrows for minions, minion hordes, and obviously it'll help against skeleton armies and goblin gangs. Log will cost one less and will help out with just the ground splash units. So those are the probably best options. You can use Fireball. Once again, I mean Rage, Clone, Heal, Mirror. I think those are all the ones. They're very situational, and I wouldn't put them in a giant deck. Lightning, Poison, Zap, Log, and Arrows are probably your best things to combo with a giant. Although Freeze Spell can be decent in some circumstances, but once again, I mean, those cards are very situational, and what I mean by that is you're not always gonna need to heal stuff, and you're not always gonna be able to because of how your opponent plays, and the same with Clone. It only works in specific situations, and it's very hard to get it to actually work. So I wouldn't suggest those cards in almost any deck, really. So, next replay is you'll see it's a very quick one. It's another Balloon Freeze. It's a very powerful combo if y'all haven't been able to tell. If you can get it to work, it's a very expensive combo also, so you gotta take that into account. That's Balloon plus Giant is 10 elixir, plus the freeze is 14, so to get that down is going to really hurt your elixir bank. You, like I say in every video, you need to play good defense, and depending on what your deck entails and what it has in it, if it's more beatdownish, which means you're trying to just get one or try to get a few huge pushes and just absolutely run over your opponent, then you can afford more tower damage. But if you're going for more control and you want to control the pace of the game and control what happens in it, then you need to play better defense and try to not allow as much damage to your tower if possible. Giant, if I were to build a deck with the Giant, Witch is a really good thing to combo with it, because it does splash and because it spawns the skeletons. And if you did that, maybe put a Lumberjack would be good with it because it'll sneak in behind the Giant and do some major damage, and also if it doesn't sneak in behind it, it will rage the Giant and whatever support units. So if it's raging the Giant and the Witch, the tower's gonna take a lot of damage. So here we've got a Graveyard Giant deck, which is also a very good option. Giant's a very good tank for Graveyard and will take a lot of shots for it. There are some giant minion or giant miner decks going around where they have the minions and the minion horde, so they kind of bait out their opponent's spell, I guess, and then they use the minion horde with the giant, and then when the giant's about to die, they send the miner over, and so the minions stay alive and are actually taking down the tower. So I don't really know how to use that deck real well. I have seen it up at the top of ladder, so if y'all want to try that deck out, that if you can get skilled with that, I'm sure that would be a very good deck to be able to be good at. Another thing that I've seen lately, I've actually kind of seen some princes coming back, and then mini P.E.K.K.A.s put behind giants because they're going to do a ton of damage, like a lumberjack, and the giant will just do a ton of tanking for them. So if they can get to the tower, they'll do a lot of damage, just like the balloon, and just like any pretty much high damage, high DPS troops, it'll do a good job tanking for them. So the main things you need to look out for: Inferno towers are not as bad as some other things if you can deal with them correctly, but you still need to be careful of them because they can take out some pretty big pushes if you're not careful. Barbarians can do a lot of damage to giants because they just shred through them. Inferno dragons, the same thing. Mini P.E.K.K.A, elite barbs, all these, once again, high DPS will hurt you the most. You got to be careful for. You should be able to easily take out skeleton army. Hopefully you take that out easily because that's a big threat to your giant, but it's easy to take out, so you shouldn't have to worry too much about that. And then there's little swarm units like goblin gangs and skeletons, and you gotta watch out for those. Have a little spell or troop in your deck that will take care of swarm units effectively. So when you use the giant, put it, if you're going to try to build a big push, put it in the back. But if you see your opponent use a golem or start up a big push in one lane, put your giant in the opposite lane at the bridge and try to go for kind of a quick push. Don't invest all your elixir because you need some to defend, but put some elixir down to make them not be able to build a very massive push against you. So that's all I got. If y'all got any questions, once again, just ask them in the comments and I'll try to be the best help that I can. And I will see you guys in the next video.